All right, welcome to Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan here with my fellow encyclopedist Keith. What's up, buddy?
Yo, what are we doing?
We're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing The Foundation by Isaac Asmov. Classic. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about any past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs on Twitter or Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes and Spotify, so please download and subscribe. Keith, by Selden. Keith, what the heck is happening in this book?
I'm here to find that out, because I read it, but I don't really know. I don't know.
Oh, okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to break it down, see what's going on. Foundation is part of a trilogy that was published between 1951 and 1953. Originally, the trilogy was 8 short stories published in Astounding Science Fiction magazine. It'd be hilarious if this was real science. The first 4 short stories were collected together, and then an additional story was added, which is the first one in this, to make up the first Foundation novel. So, Keith, bottom line is there are 2 things that are driving the story, right? We got the Galactic Empire that's going belly up and is going to thrust mankind into a 30,000-year dark age. And then we got psychohistory, which is like a mix of math, psychology, and sociology that predicted this demise. But it also proved that the 30,000 years can be reduced to a mere millennia if these crises are handled correctly, pretty much. So it's 5 short stories that kind of address those crises. Crises.
Have you read Atlas Cloud? It's like Atlas Cloud / Dune / the game Civilization on the PC.
Is Atlas Cloud the one that they made into a movie?
They made a movie of it, yeah, with Tom Hanks.
I started that movie and was like, I can't, which is surprising because I can with any movie. So
the movie didn't make a lot of sense. It made 1,000 times more sense in the book. So, yeah, put it that way. I don't know how I finished that book, but it was similar to this.
When did you read this? You keeping shit secret from me?
I read it on the train back in 2011.
People must have looked at you and said, wow, that guy's really smart. He must be doing really smart stuff.
They're like, oh, he must be into maps and clouds.
All right, well, let's just jump into Stock Up, Stock Down. Keith, what did you have for Stock Up Foundation?
Stock Up, Wikipedia, and encyclopedias. So
okay.
Yeah. This book centers around, obviously, the creation of an encyclopedia initially, which is all a scam. I'll tell you what isn't a scam, Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's free.
Insert the I'm not a smart man, Forrest Gump soundbite here, or GIF or whatnot. But I think that's been well established. We all know that. But thank God for Wikipedia, and just the internet in general, because after reading this, I needed someone to explain to me that was above my intellect level and just go in and explain what happened, because I had no idea what was going on half the time. But this really gets to more, really, and this is why this is a stock up as well, is that this book talks about the future. This is the future. The future isn't about being smart. It's about being resourceful. It's about going out there, finding stuff when you don't know. I'm smart enough in my scenario to know that I'm not smart. You know what I mean? So I go out there and I find the things, the answers to when I'm curious. That's what school should be about. That's what the future should be about, is that you find ways or teach people how to be curious and go out and find answers to things if you're not smart enough to do it yourself.
Yeah, it's simple. Like, dumb it down for me. All right. I need everything dumbed down. Make it shorter, make it concise, make it at a 3rd grade reading level.
I think a catchphrase should be, moving forward, is it's okay to be an idiot. It's not okay to be ignorant. Very easy to be an idiot, which a lot of people are. I am. It's fine. It's not, you're just not. This is a hard level of reading. But there's so many things now so you don't have to be ignorant, that you can just look up.
Ignorant. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what the stock up was. Also, if we're in a safe space here, I hope we are. I read the Wikipedia. I still don't know what happened in this book, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, the stock's still up. So.
All right. Fair enough. The only problem with ignorance, though, is that when you look this stuff up, you eventually just start forgetting everything. Like, I just can't keep the pieces together. So, that's just how it is. My first stock up is having 0 interesting characters in a book. So usually you would think, book has 0 interesting characters, it's going to be terrible. Maybe in this book there's maybe Salvor Hardin or Harry Seldon, I don't know. But this book really doesn't have any characters of interest at all. At no point when it went on to the next mini book or whatever you're going to call it, was I like, oh no, that stinks. I was having such a good time with that person. Which is like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't even remember their name. You know, it was like shaking someone's hand at a party or at a work event or something. I immediately forgot it. But this book won the one-time Hugo Award. They only issued this award one time up until like 2008 for best all-time series. Best series all-time, the Foundation series. 1966 won it. It beat Lord of the Rings. How is that possible? Literally no idea. Can you enlighten me?
No idea. None.
I want to be clear. I didn't dislike Foundation. I actually really enjoyed this book. But to beat Lord of the Rings, which is just like freaking epic, and like talk about written in different languages. Like this guy created languages that are in the book. It's just it's wild to me. And there's only interesting characters in that book. You know, there's trees that talk. Like what? There's no trees that talk in this book. So I guess if you have 0 interesting characters, you can still be the best all-time series. So good on you. What else did you have for stock up?
Stock up Star Wars Phantom Menace.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? This stock is trading quite low.
Yeah, I mean that's key here. This book brought me back to when I was 12 years old, and I'm in the movie theater with my popcorn, and obviously getting ready to watch it. And like the first 30 minutes of Star Wars Phantom Menace is about Trade Federation and embargoes. And like, it's that, but without any lightsabers. It's basically they're like talking politics and like Trade Federation. I'm just staring with like glazed eyes when being like, when's the lightsabers come out?
Yeah.
What's going on here? I don't know. There's no Jar Jar. Maybe that dude that sounds like Elmer Fudd's Jar Jar, but there's no like catchy one-liners. Now this is pod racing, I need something here. Give me something to grasp onto. I'm still a 12-year-old at heart, so yeah. Stock up Phantom of the Menace though, because it did provide those things.
I recently did the watch of Star Wars with the SGF because she had never seen them. So twist my arm, rewatch all the Star Wars movies.
Right, of course.
Phantom of the Menace was the only one that like 3 times in the first 30 minutes I had to pause and ask like, do you know what's happening here? And not like in a pejorative way, because it is so confusing. She was like, no, I don't know. I was like, okay, so there's this whole Galactic Trade Federation that's trying to get control. Like, why is this a thing? Like, what is this? Who decided to write this?
It was made for 12-year-olds, the movie.
Yeah, that movie specifically, I feel like, was made for a younger audience.
Yeah.
And like pod racing is like, oh, okay, cool, that's for kids. If it wasn't for Duel of the Fates, that movie would be terrible. Luckily, that is one of the greatest Star Wars scenes in my personal opinion.
Yeah, Darth Maul is still a goat,
Yeah, and just the music itself, so sick, yeah.
Yeah.
My next talk up is short stories in general.
Okay.
I feel like we don't read a lot of short stories. And, I mean, there's, like, the Stephen King ones are short stories that we've read, but, like, The Body was a full book. I don't feel like it was a short story. Where these ones are, like, 50 pages each. And since Foundation is made up of like 5 short stories, there were a couple in there I was like, this isn't for me. But the good part is I'm like, all right, well, I only have 30 more audio minutes to listen to this, and then I'm going to move on to something that may or may not interest me, but I don't have to really remember all of this except for the broad strokes. Even those were tough sometimes. But so yeah, I just like the idea of a short story in general. It's like there's an overarching theme that's going through, but the actual characters within that story, I don't have to try to tie myself to, because...
Real quick, number 1 short story, and there's only one answer for this. What do you got?
Scary stories to tell in the dark? I don't know.
Most dangerous game, of course. I mean, that's number 1. But all right.
Did you ever see The Pest with John Leguizamo?
I don't know the words you just said.
The Pest, it's a movie starring John Leguizamo from the 90s. It's basically
Lasagna. What's his name?
Leguizamo. Yeah, he's an actor. It's basically their like version of The Most Dangerous Game, with like some guy hires, or like I don't remember the premise of the story. It's terrible movie. I'm not saying it's good.
The cover says anything about it, then
yeah, exactly.
4.4 from Google out of 5. All right.
What? I wonder what is it on Rotten Tomatoes?
Rotten Tomatoes, 67% audience score. Guess the critic score though.
20.
4%.
Oh my god, that's a huge delta.
They might have to add that into the Rotten Tomato variance.
I mean, it's crazy that it's certified fresh by the audience and a literal 4
by the critics. That's pretty insane.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't know. See, that's another random piece of information that came into my head. You say most dangerous game, I immediately think of The Pest.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have another stock up?
Last one, individual leaders stock up. This book was very, very high on like individuals leading humanity forward and moving civilization in the right direction. I mean, this is written in the 40s. I think that maybe still existed then, but does that even exist anymore? Do you even like point to people and be like, that's a person that we can trust and like he's the person that, you know, that's going to take the society forward and they're going to, or she's going to make the society better? No. We don't have that anymore, right? Back then we had these scientists, humanitarians who like did things for the better good. I mean, like the perfect example of like what the world has become is Nikola Tesla was like the most selfless person ever. Now that Tesla name is gone and it just represents a luxury car that's owned by a billionaire who all it cares about is his name in the headlines. And that's what we've become. You know, we would change the guy that's like that made like, what did he have, like 100 patents that he just released and said, I'm not making money off these, I just want everyone to have them, to a luxury car that pretends it's for the environment that only millionaires can buy. That's where we're at. Maybe I'm cynical. I just don't think individual leaders would ever do anything that would happen in this book anymore. I'm just
it's
very
unfortunate
cynical.
because you have to have the like perfect storm of intelligence, charisma, interest to lead, but also
selflessness.
Yeah, which that just like doesn't go with any of the other ones. You can't have a huge ego, but also
you need a huge ego to make changes, though. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be so self-confident and like cocksure that you, but you can't, then you also have to be like, I got to give back though. It's like, which is very rare.
Yeah, you have to be equally the president, Billy Bob Thornton in Love Actually, and Hugh Grant, the Prime Minister of Britain. You have to be the exact middle of those two characters.
Can we use a different rom-com? You know I'm not the Love Actually guy.
Buddy, I only have a few rom-coms in my belt, and I threw one out there and you didn't bite. I'm sorry.
Love Actually is like way too... There's not a lot of calm in Love Actually.
Oh, there's great calm.
I don't know.
The calm's got calm.
Okay, talk to me about Crazy Stupid Love or Hitch, and now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, sure. So you have to be both Ryan Gosling's character and Steve Carell's character.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can make that movie anymore. I think it'd be canceled because he's kind of like a date rapist, right?
No. Girls are like literally throwing themselves at him.
Yeah, I know. And he's like buying him drinks at bars, taking him home. He's kind of like, he represents toxic masculinity, right? In today's day and age.
No, I mean, he's good looking, so that's fine.
You can't do it. It doesn't count if you're good looking.
Yeah, if you're good looking, it's not creepy, you know?
Yeah.
But I did post, you know, when the trend was going around where they would show Steve Carell's character like dressed as a dad, and they were saying this is this is that. I did post that and say people that read books with Steve Carell and people that listen to audiobooks are Ryan Gosling.
Nice.
I thought that was going to blow up the internet. Like people were. I don't think one person liked it. I don't know how Twitter works. Honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. I was like, this is going to kill it. Not one person even responded.
You should have sent it to like Ryan Gosling and had him repost it.
I mean, it was one of those times when everyone was posting that, so it wasn't like original, but it was like an original in the book community. I thought, but no,
I'm not trying to cancel Ryan Gosling either. I think that movie's phenomenal.
Yeah, great film movie.
My stock up, my last one is parsecs. There's lots of parsec talk in this novel, The Foundation, and Star Wars also had some pretty historic parsec talk. They're clearly using it as a unit of length, wink wink, in this novel. And people were talking shit about Star Wars because, you know, they said like, oh, the Millennium Falcon made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is, people are like, oh, 12 parsecs. That's like they're using it as a unit of time. That's not actually true, people out there. Just so you know, the Kessel Run is a 20 parsec distance. And Han Solo, by being able to fly close to the black hole, was able to reduce the distance to 12 parsecs, which means he was ballsy enough to fly that close to the black hole to decrease the amount of time it took him to get there by decreasing the length. So it is also in Star Wars a unit of length. Just said it in kind of in a weird way. So get your shit right. Don't shit on George Lucas there, at least for the first three.
Nicely done. Yeah, that's a good callback. And I did notice the parsec stuff. I was like, oh, I know that word. I don't know what it means, but I know it. Kind of. 3.5
light years or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. I like it.
What do you have for stock down?
Stock down, and I hate to do this, but women, not a good. You already spilled your coffee. You all right over there?
I just saw all of our future hopes and dreams go out the window.
Hey, listen, I'm basing it off the book. I'm buying the stocks off the book. This is the whole point of stock down, stock up, stock down.
Yeah.
But do women even exist in the future? I don't know if they even this book did not have feature any women at all.
It's highlight of one of my stock downs as well. So yeah, not a good look by Isaac Asmov in this one.
I think there might have been one reference to a woman, and it was like a nag. She was like,
wanted
just
the
nagging.
bracelet or whatever. Yeah. She was like, oh, look, I got you this nice new clothes. And she was like, fine, I'll put out because you got me those, like, this piece of technology.
I think they referenced too. They're like, you want to sell more goods and make more money? Like, listen to us. Like, think of all the women that will buy the cooking and cleaning supplies. I was like, Jesus Christ. This book, like, I know it was written in the 40s, but like, was it that long ago? I thought they made it sound like it was 1600. So they're like,
for all the things that are like predicted in this, like future, the ideas of what the future is going to be like, to have that much, foresight into being able to see these trends and whatnot, to not think that maybe women will be given, I don't know, like they'll have been more scientists that are women. Like, are you crazy? Like, what? How do you think that, we can't keep the women down that long? You got to step it up. So he didn't figure that one out.
Especially since this was during World War II, when women were literally taking all the jobs that men were doing and just doing, like,
not, there's no drop off. Seen a league of their own? What?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about baseball. They're holding their own, but still. Everywhere else, like, they were doing like manufacturing jobs, so kind of crazy.
Rosie the Riveter, shut up. Actually, one of our other books I'm thinking we do is we haven't even talked about this, but The Rose Code. It's about a bunch of women during World War II. So I think we add that to our list. But Isaac Asmov, I don't know what you're thinking here, buddy. You got to get your shit together, because I think he was probably like some sort of incel or something like that. He also didn't have time to go into the world. He wrote like 500 books. So I don't know. Maybe because he was a man, he was like, only men exist.
Well, what do you think right now that we're saying that like 100 years from now, you'd be like, wow, I can't believe they didn't take that into account. I was thinking like children's views. Like right now we're like, kids don't know what they're talking about, but in 100 years, maybe we'll like look to children just to answer every question. It'll kind of be like, what's your favorite book there?
Phantom Tollbooth.
What? I don't even know. I've never even heard of that. No, the sci-fi kids book.
Ender's Game?
Ender's Game. Yeah, it'll be like Ender's Game maybe in the future.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, maybe.
I mean, it is kind of crazy to be like, women will have rights. It'll be equal to children having
opinions. Well, actually, it ties into Jurassic Park a little bit too. I mean, they got Timmy over there managing the. Oh, you're probably not there yet. No real spoilers here, but they're like, I don't know how to work a computer. Tim, you do it. He's like, I'm 8.
Yeah.
They're like, no, restore the power to the entire park. He's like, okay, hold on a second. F4, done. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Maybe make a blog about it. None of us are going to exist anymore. It's going to be robots, and everything's going to be the Chat GPT or whatever thing is the smartest thing in the universe.
That's writing all of our blogs right now, by the way. So
it probably could, I mean, it definitely could.
You literally say type 5 paragraphs about how chicken wings are taking over the world, and it'll spit it something out.
Yeah, my brother-in-law uses it for his business. He's like, I just say, what's a good social media post about hockey training, and he'll send
really? That's
he
awesome.
Sends me like what it kicks out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is pretty smart. But this is before I even knew it existed. He goes, oh, yeah, that was a bot that wrote that. I was like, what?
Luckily, that's not our job.
2 seconds.
Totally.
Yeah, crazy. So, yeah, I don't even know. Probably we'll all just be in... It'll be like... Truthfully, the closest thing is it'll be like WALL-E, where everyone's just like fat, sitting in their chairs, like sucking down Mountain Dews. It'll be a mix between WALL-E and Idiocracy.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, my first talk down was being committed to your work. Let's talk about the encyclopedists here. These guys, and I do mean guys, because for some short-sighted reason, the galaxy doesn't have any working women. Ridiculous. These guys have fully bought into Harry Seldon, right? Let's just picture this for a second. They're leaving behind, when they're on Trantor, they're leaving behind friends, family, and, the comfortability of a society to go to the most far-reaching edge of the galaxy, all for the greater good. They're only like, okay, Harry Seldon said the world's going to end. We got to build this encyclopedia so that things can move forward. All right, we're going to sacrifice everything. We're going to take the wives and kids and get the heck out of here.
Like the Puritans. But go on.
Yeah, sure. They're going to spend their lives compiling, their entire lives, compiling all the scientific information available in order to save the world from darkness and chaos. Every day, they grab their lunch pail, tell their woman to stay in the kitchen, I guess is what this thing in this book goes. They go to work, and they're working furiously to get everything in this encyclopedia. And this guy's done this for 50 years. He left Trantor. He's been working his butt off on Terminus, eating fucking rocks for 50 years. And then this time capsule opens up. Harry Seldon comes on screen. He's like, oh, wait, no. Uno reverse card. Psych, JK, encyclopedia was a joke. I don't give two shits if nothing's created. This was all just so that we could have a colony on Terminus to start the next galactic empire. So all these scientists and encyclopedias, 100,000 people, have just been told that their life's work is meaningless. Meaningless.
Yep.
So the meaning of this whole thing, the point of this, is just don't care about your work because it's meaningless. At the end of the day, do not be committed to your work. It is meaningless.
All right. Good positive message to take from that. I appreciate that.
That's not me. That's Harry Seldon. He's coming straight from his mouth.
Well, how about the fact that, too, he's like, well, I'm going to die, so I don't care if everyone else gets screwed over. Like, whatever. It's like, huh? All right.
Wait, what do you mean everyone else gets screwed over?
It doesn't go to
because he's got
place. He's like I'm going to die, and he's like, I'm going to set these people up to fail for 50 years so that they only can choose one path from there. Oh, okay. So much for personal freedom. They still like bow down to him after that. I'd be blowing things up. I'd be like revolting if I found out my 50 years of work like are worthless and this guy has just been lying to me the whole time. I'd be like, oh, really? I'd be open up all the time capsules and making fucking those things up.
Yeah, I mean, these people have all buy-in, you know what I mean? They got Harry Seldon tattooed on their neck and posters of him on their wall like he's Chairman Mao or something. So they have to believe. I mean, at that point, they just have to believe like he knows the greater good. Like whether or not he bullshitted us here, he knows, it was all for a purpose. I'm being a little bit facetious in my being committed to your work thing because at the end of the day, Harry was right. So,
are you not tearing down your Milli and Vanilli or whatever their band poster after you find out they're not actually singing? You're keeping those up on the wall?
Well, let's say they weren't actually singing because they were going to stop a galactic crisis. Then, yeah,
that's not my problem. About 1,000 years from now, I'm not worried about that.
That's everyone's problem. That's the whole point of everything, and that's why.
Live for today. Live for today.
That's your next stock down, living for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So why aren't you just like, I don't know, chain smoking cigarettes and doing heroin and...
Who says I'm not?
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche.
You hear this deep voice? You don't get this from not smoking Marlboro Reds and Virginia Slims every day.
Those are two completely different kinds of cigarettes.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. What else do you have for stock down?
Last stock down, I think you've already kind of touched on it. Remembering names, stock down.
Oh, good God.
I mean, I'm already awful at this. Just terrible. And, I know it's going to only get worse as I get older. But what I'm going to do, and to steal a line from you, if I'm blessed to have kids, not that I want them, I'm pulling a Manny Ramirez or George Foreman. Manny Ramirez named his first son Manny Ramirez Jr., and then his next son, Manuelito, who goes by Manny. So Manny. And then George Foreman.
Yeah, George Foreman. Yeah.
Has George Jr. or George Jr., George 3, George 4, George 5, and George 6. So that's what I'm going to do.
Isn't his daughters like Georgita and...
I don't know. I might have missed that. Yeah, that could be true, too. I missed that one. But yeah, this book has 5 different stories. Has 25 plus characters. All the names are like made up names. Could he not just kept everyone in the same family tree so I could like at least...
Also, the toughest part too is that there's Harry Seldon and Salvor Hardin are like 2 of the main characters. They sound way too similar.
And then the 2 cities, I didn't know that...
Trantor and Terminus.
Like, they sound exactly the same too.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I could not remember names. I couldn't remember places. And then I did. I'm like, is that guy or that guy? So
Yeah. Even the
terrible.
places were tough, It's like the Anacrononians, and I'm like, okay, wait, which ones are they? Are they the ones from the other book who were fighting those ones? I don't know. It goes back to what I say about every book. It needs a map in the first page. I need to see it. I need to. I'm confused otherwise. I need a few pages of maps.
Well, did you read this book physically?
No. Is there a map?
I don't know. It could have been. I'm not sure.
I read it physically once, but I don't remember a map.
Oh, okay.
This is my second time reading it.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
Yeah.
So you really know what's going on, maybe, kind of.
Kind of. My last talk down is psychohistory. So it seems pretty rad. Sociological math that you can use to predict the future. At the time, it's a novel idea, and supposedly it was potentially used successfully in terms of like election, picking out who would win an election or something like that. And it makes a lot of logical sense. If you know if you can predict, big sociological trends, you put them into your, math formula, click some buttons, and it'll tell you, spit out an outcome. So I liked that. I mean, I still like it in the story. It's a very fascinating idea. And to kind of come up with that is pretty cool. I mean, Isaac Asimov was somewhat of a genius for sure. He wrote 500 books, including college level biochemical engineering books. It was he's wild. But unfortunately, 10 years later, chaos theory is discovered in the early 60s, which pretty much makes this totally obsolete, because chaos theory, the typical idea they use is butterflies flapping his wings in Brazil will create a tornado in Texas or whatever the case is. And it's a huge part of Jurassic Park, which we're going to be reading soon. And it really, with the amount of time that the Foundation stuff is going through, we're talking 1,000 years, it's just, there's no way that you could actually predict that. I know I'm poking holes in something that's made up and supposed to be fun and science fiction-y, but it's just unfortunate that this new piece of science was developed 10 years after this book came out. That was nah, that really wouldn't work. You can't predict these things. There's too many moving pieces.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also relies on great leaders stepping forward that are not going to take over the country and be dictators, ruin all their plans.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, that's what Salvor Hardin did. He took over and he did
but
it
he was
for
a good
the
guy.
Greater good. Yeah, sure.
You expect him, not a Hitler.
But maybe Selden predicted that. I don't know what happens in the other books. Because even at the end with the merchant princes, their goal is really to make a lot of money, but it also coincides with what the whole thing is with Selden. And they even say at some point, he's like, I'm not really concerned about the big picture because I know that Harry Selden's already figured it out. Which is probably a good way to do it, Mm-hmm. Just like you said, live your day to day and be doesn't really matter. Harry Seldon already calculated this.
Harry knows what's going on. That's what I say every time too.
So,
but the other big piece of science that was learned 3 or 4 years later is the relativity of time or whatever on each planet, and they didn't really follow that in any way either, right?
What do you mean?
A day was a day everywhere, whereas certain planets, I only know that because of, I don't know the theory, I don't understand it. Yeah, Interstellar. It's the only thing that basically taught me everything about space.
Well, I think that's also only if you're super close to a black hole.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I just knew that because time, or just because light doesn't travel, I always thought about even if we were able to see another planet that was really far off, we would see it 40 or 1,000 years in the past, not today, which I always thought was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, it is crazy. The fact that when you look up into the night sky, you're looking into the past is pretty cool. I think the premise here, though, is that there's a ability to warp space and time so that you can travel to different places in the galaxy rather quickly. It's not like when you're traveling there, they're aging that much more. And for Interstellar in particular, it was because of the black hole, because the black hole is so big and creating so much gravity that space and time is bent from there. So the closer things are to the black hole, the faster time goes elsewhere. Instead of a favorite scene, I'm interested to know if one of the short stories you enjoyed more than the others.
Yeah, I think the third one, I think that was
The
the
Mares?
best by far. Yeah, that should just been the whole book. It should have just been expanded upon because we had both the religious aspect of like here's how someone basically probably following the Crusaders in some ways, right? Like goes out there and spreads religion and like makes you get locked in and like that basically allows you to build an empire.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the Crusades, so
I don't know. I assume that the Holy Catholic Church was going out there sending Crusaders out there to in order to gain more power, more money. You get more people into your religion, right? So I assumed it was similar to that. No idea if that's true. But then they also had that. Then they also had that cool battle where there was like a one family that was trying to take them over, and like they did the Uno reverse card and said, oh, actually we knew about your plan and here's all the things we did to like set you up and fuck you over. And I was like, all right, so that was kind of a cool story. They should have just expanded upon that, made that a little bigger. That would have been a better book to me than all the other stuff.
yeah, I'm with you. The Mares was my favorite as well, also because we have the encyclopedia section first to kind of set up Salvor Hardin's character, who's just like cigar smoking good hang guy, and so that sets up his character. And then now we see him like in older age, more wizened, if you will. And then it's him really using all of the tactics that he's learned to pull this move on the Acrononians, whoever it is. I can't remember. I think that's who it is. And it was a great setup because you're like, okay, wait, how does he have this under control? Because he kept saying like, I got this, no big deal. And it's like, wait, you're going there? Why are you going there? It's like, don't worry about it. I got it. And you see as the pieces start to fall into place, you're like, oh, snap. Like he's using this religion as a weapon is just amazing. Stuff they have, the chair that levitates or whatever, and people believe in it. It's really fascinating. It does remind me a lot of Dune, for sure, that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. The Mares was good. The first three were good in my opinion, and then I got more and more confused. I understood the points of the later ones, but at no point was I as drawn in, because they tried it kind of with the Merchant Princes when it was the assassination attempt or the priest was going to get murdered, and it turns out it was a decoy person. And I was just like, yeah, okay, there's another trial. So I was like, okay, trial like at the beginning, but it just didn't have the same feel to it. What'd you love about Foundation?
I like futuristic societies. I like dystopias, the human tendencies, how things are spread. I like all that stuff. So there was a lot of that in this. This is probably a master's level of that. I like the young adult version of it. So that made it a little bit tough. I like the Albert Fudd dude.
You said that earlier. Who are you talking about?
The guy that dropped his R's to sound smarter.
Oh. Yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't really know why he did that, but I'm trying to mimic it now, but I can't even think about how to do it.
I'm trying to mimic.
Yeah, there we go. I was like, oh, that's Elmer Fudd. That's where my intellect goes to. It's like, oh, I get it. That's a cartoon character.
Yeah. That's what's happening in your head all the time. I love the scope of it. I mean, how can you not? You kind of touched on it with what you said for Love, but the idea of this giant galactic empire that spans 25 million planets or whatever, it's super cool, and seems to us now maybe potentially played out even, but at this point it was groundbreaking. This is supposedly the first sci-fi series to ever encompass a full galactic empire. So if nothing else, whether you like or hate the book, the idea that Isaac Asimov put out into like the zeitgeist this idea of a galactic empire, and that a story can encompass the entirety of this empire, is what put forward so many other pieces of pop culture and work that we enjoy, most notably Star Wars. I mean, your favorite. Yeah. Without that, I mean, would that have even happened? Because, George Lucas kind of took
the foundation.
Took the foundation of this. Also took like Kurosawa's Japanese action movies, like the Hidden
Power Rangers.
No, the Hidden Fortress, Seven Samurai. I mean, Darth Vader's helmet is a samurai helmet. He has a lot of influence from Kurosawa. So taking Kurosawa's work, tying it in with this, and creating his own creation from there, it was awesome. Great. And and Frank Herbert, when he wrote Dune, supposedly there's like a very clear, like he read Foundation and was like, oh, okay, I'm going to focus on a different aspect. Like this could have gone a different way as opposed to this foundation thing. It could have gone a different way because Dune's all about the fall of this, empire and the rise of Paul Muad'Dib. So yeah, it's so cool to think that people can just like come up with this shit that now to us seems so clear and obvious.
Right. It's like creating like a unicorn, or like all the bad guys. They're now just like, oh yeah, vampires obviously, but someone had to create that.
Yeah, sure. Dracula. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, what else do you love?
I do like how they used religion and money and merchants and different things to create dynasties. Like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of ties to history to that. I'm not smart enough to know those, but I'm sure there are. I also liked, which this might be, everyone might know this, and I might just have never noticed it, but everything in space is a sea term. So like ships and ports and life vessels, and they have all these things that are nautical things that I never realized that's what space stuff is. It's like spaceships and space, ports, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And they used a lot of different ones that I kept on thinking, are they in the sea? And I'm like, oh no, they're in space, but they just use the same term.
Yeah, they do.
That was good. I thought that was interesting.
I like that too. I wonder if there's, because there's, we get starboard bow, we got port side, and what's the other?
Star Trek they use that, right?
Yeah, but I'm wondering, is there a different dimension for like top and bottom?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And what's the opposite of port? I don't know. Space is just the final frontier. And yeah, you said it was tied to history. This is, I think Isaac Asmov went into this thinking a lot about, or using the Roman Empire as kind of like an allegory. So the fall of the Roman Empire, he was like, okay, what if there was a fall of the Roman Empire, but on a way bigger level, like a galactic level, and someone had the ability to like predict its demise, kind of thing? Because I think we've talked about on the pod before how a lot of the stuff from the like technology and whatnot from the Roman Empire was lost, and people later would stumble upon some of the creations,
like aqueducts, and
think that like some crazy alien race or something had created it because it was so beyond their understanding. Okay, what about hates?
I mean, we already touched on this. I didn't really like the jumping around the stories. I love world building, but typically that involves you kind of set yourself in this small area, you build up that small world, and then those characters, you learn about them, and then the world expands around them. So like Luke, is in Tatooine, and then this whole universe opens up. Or Red Rising, you're in this small area in Mars, and then it becomes bigger and bigger, and that's the cool thing to watch or look. This was just like, here are two characters, the world's huge, good luck, and then it's like, and then we're gonna change them, and then we're gonna go over here, and then it's like, what's going on? I don't know, where are we? Who are these people?
Yeah,
I didn't care for that.
One of my hates, or my only hate too, it just seems like the multiple short stories weren't really tied together super well. And there's definitely an overarching theme, I get it, and like it all makes sense as a whole, but just kind of like ending one story and then like fast forward a bunch of years and it's like a new story. I think as individual short stories, they're interesting and compelling, but trying to like pull them all into one novel, it didn't seem the cleanest for me. And additionally, like we talked about, there's just so many characters. By the time you get to the next story, you kind of forgot about the previous characters, and maybe that's the point. Like it doesn't really matter. Only what matters is that the foundation's continuing. But at the end of it, it didn't really get me to want to know like how it ends. I have listened to the second one. I think I listened to it like while I was working 10 years ago, like at work on YouTube, and I don't really remember it. This is one where I'd want to use your stock up of Wikipedia and just see how it ends, because I think there's like 8 books.
Yeah, or watch the TV show.
Yeah, I think the TV show does try to do a little more like from one person's perspective, like fish out of water situation. I do also remember from the pilot that there's one person that's Basil Exposition and is just explaining to you like what's happening. Eventually just like stops explaining to you, because it's like that character even says like, I understand now, and this is basically telling
looks
everyone,
at the camera,
like, like we all understand now.
Yeah, we get it now.
Yeah, I only saw like first episode and a half, but the set pieces or whatnot were pretty cool. Would you recommend Foundation, Isaac Asimov's beautiful novel, to your friends or family?
No, I wouldn't. I think there's a certain amount of people that would really appreciate this, and I think there's a handful of people I've asked if they've read it, and those are a very small segment of people. I felt like this is kind of like Shakespeare, right? Where you kind of understand what's going on, and you appreciate that you read it. Cool to say that you read it, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what's going on.
You read it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? That's what it is. It's a Shakespeare type book.
I think I stumbled upon, when I was like looking up this book, a blog from like IO9 or something like that was basically like 10 sci-fi books that you want to tell people you've read but you haven't. And this was one of them. I was like, that checks out.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I mean, if you're looking for a character driven storyline, like this is not going to be the book for you. I would say if someone I knew was a big sci-fi fan and hadn't read this book, I would call it a must read, just because of, I mean, the story itself is good. I like it. It's quick, it's not like a long book or anything. And I think just more for like societally, pop culture wise, what it brought. So yeah.
I would almost say it's more for a philosophy or sociology type person.
I agree with that too.
I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, this is a sci-fi type person's book. I think it's those things more than anything.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking of someone who was like, oh, I love Ender's Game and I love Dune and I've read Discworld or whatever the case is. I'd say, well, probably should check out Foundation because it is the foundation for all of those. That's just my opinion.
I think I said the same thing for Brave New World, though, so to be fair.
What, that it's for sociological types? I'm surprised you remember that because that was like 35 episodes ago.
I had some deja vu going on there. I was like, I feel like I've said this before.
Deja vu. So. Great Tony Scott movie featuring Denzel Washington.
Of course.
Yeah. You don't like Tony Scott, though.
Yeah, I do. I just don't like that one. I just watched Taking Pelham 1, 2, 3. I actually didn't think that movie was bad.
Oh, so a train movie that you liked.
Yeah, I mean, there was actually an enemy. It wasn't a physical object. That's the enemy.
The train is the enemy.
Yeah.
The train is the bad guy.
We can't stop this train. What do we do? Just get off it. I don't know. Who cares? What does this matter?
It's going to blow up like a whole town. All right. Well, that's something totally different. We are not going to poke holes at Tony Scott, one of the best directors of this age. So I would recommend it. You wouldn't. I mean, it's not going to break my top 10, but I enjoyed it. What do we got coming up next? Are we doing Jurassic Park next?
We're doing Jurassic Park next, and I think for movie we're doing
Debbie Does Dallas.
Ryan Gosling to keep it on point.
Oh,
here.
the
Ryan
Gray
Gosling
Man.
movie. The Gray Man, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. I'm excited.
I mean, we already have a blog up on the Buddy Book Club about it. So
really,
and your boy liked it. So I know you're gonna dislike it. So I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm gonna bring my guns. I'm gonna get them loaded like my boy Ryan Gosling in the movie. Get them ready. It's a pure action movie. Oh, I can't wait.
Okay, I like pure action movies. Don't throw that there.
I can already tell you're gonna dislike. I know this is not a D-Man movie. I'm excited.
Well, it depends. Is the Gray Man a reference to a train? Because if it is, I'm down.
So he gets on a train and here's the whole thing. It can't stop.
All right, well, that was Foundation. We'll catch you next time for Jurassic Park, another great sci-fi book. So we'll see you then. All right.
Alrighty,
bye now.